Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have no news.
Woo!
What?
How is that possible?
No, I just wanted to get right into the show.
Yeah.
I'm Dave Landau. Joining me in the co-host seat for QB is...
Derek Richards. Nice to be here. And of course, as usual, behind the desk, the amazing Angela.
Oh, thank you guys.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi. Hit like and subscribe, please.
Go ahead, tongue jack.
Share with your friends.
Yes, ugh.
Yes, ugh, indeed.
Ugh indeed. Yeah, check that out. Also, Derek here and I'll be headlining, obviously. He's the opener. This weekend we'll be in Greenville, South Carolina.
God, you're such an asshole.
Why? For being honest? Why don't you read that where you, with Dave Landau, like what it, like,
Dave Landau.
dare you?
June 13th and 14th.
Say for Dave Landau. Then
June
Cherokee
13th and 14th, Greenville, South Carolina. Dave Landau headlining. Insecure prick. And I'll be
20 on red. What?
You're such an ass.
You're going to be at Harris Casino.
Harris Casino in Cherokee, North Carolina, June 18th through the 22nd. And then a fundraiser show in Redford, Michigan on Saturday, June 28th. Helps out a guy running for council position. Yes, it is. Kevin Kramus.
Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah.
I got to have him on here.
Yeah, he'd be
You're
great.
invited.
He'd be great.
Also, June 26th through 28th, Dr. Grin's, Grand Rapids, Michigan. June 21st, Brisket Fest. Gaylord, Michigan. Mm-hmm. But without further ado, one of my favorite human beings to stop by the show to share his travels. Please welcome back, Yoshi.
Woo!
Thanks, guys. Great to be back. I love the interaction between you two. Russell Peters does the same thing, except for he just called me a Chinaman. Sorry, he calls me Ching Chong Chinaman. So
It's so, he doesn't even have the Indian accent, so it just sounds like a regular guy saying that to you.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Ching Chong Chinaman.
But, people are a little too sensitive about the racial stuff. It is funny, and as long as it's coming from a good place, it is, because he pays me really well.
Yeah, it's like you can call me whatever you want for the paycheck.
100%, yes.
Yeah, I think, race is just a thing I think we try to make it more touchy than most people really feel. And I say that as a white man who's part of the group that's had it the hardest.
I mean, I just think most people are narcissists.
Yeah.
So for you to be racist, you have to stop thinking about yourself and somebody else. I don't think most people are doing that.
No, I think a large part of our culture actually is the fact that we don't look out. There's like a thing with dying soldiers in Vietnam. I was just talking to somebody about why the Viet Cong were able to get hit but stay alive longer, and it's because they were more focused on like nature and the trees, where you immediately go into shock when you're shot, because you're not used to that in a country where you have, I don't know, we can say a little more privilege.
Sure.
So like it was just like they were more connected in Buddhism to like the outside world, and they could focus on something instead of their own pain for longer.
Wait,
They still died.
Are you making reference to Vietnam War because
Yes.
I'm here?
Oh, correct. I assume that you know most of the Viet Cong. No, I just
You had to know
saying.
at least 20 people that died.
No, it was more a take on narcissism.
Yeah.
Narcissism, but no, I don't. I'm not, because you're not Vietnamese.
To police, same difference. Let's
Yeah,
be
that's
honest.
true. I mean,
Ice is the same thing.
you throw them up in. Well, you're also a 7-foot tall Asian. I thought
that's
you were a
true, too.
basketball player when I met you.
Yeah.
I was like, aren't you Lau Ming from the L.A. Raiders? It's not even a basketball
LA Raiders.
team, I know. Lakers. Can you imagine a tall Asian
Yao
football
Ming,
player?
not Lao Ming.
No, it's Yao Ming. It was a
Ming.
joke.
Lao Ming's a dish at Panda Express.
Is it?
Like,
You're a dish. All right.
I am, thank you.
Now, you want to get into your travels, though, before we get into this part. You did see the Glenn Ross play, which I wanted to see.
It's phenomenal. I think it's going until June 28th of this month, and Bill Burr was phenomenal.
Yeah.
This is on Broadway, right?
Yeah, Bob Odenkirk and Kieran Culkin, among others, and it was a phenomenal show. I thought,
Michael McKean, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's got a bit of a Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad kind of connection to the show. But I thought, out of all the things that won Tonys over the weekend, I thought that show should have won something, but I think because David Mamet's been more conservative last decade or so, I think that hurt the play. Because to me, that was probably one of the best thing out there in Broadway right now.
Oh, David Mamet is an excellent screenwriter, excellent playwright. Everything that he's done, and a lot of people don't know this, but you were talking about this with Alec Baldwin's character.
Yeah,
that was written specifically.
Well, I think there was a scheduling issue, so he couldn't do the movie. So when he was free from the project at that time, he showed up and Mammoth wrote this thing. It's not a part of the play. Alec Baldwin was fucking perfect. It was the perfect thing that he did that movie. You know,
It's one of my favorite scenes in film history. And he did it on SNL with elves, where it was always be Coblin.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did as a joke, where he's just basically at Santa's workshop, and he's so in the character, he starts saying "always be closing."
Oh, that's
and then
right.
he stops himself, and he's like cobbling. He's dressed like an elf, but he's doing it in that same way that is probably him.
I never met him, but to me, it doesn't feel like he was acting because being an asshole seemed like a perfect thing for him.
Like it fit. This is a Rolex. I drive, and just the way he just degrades everyone in the room. Second prize, you're fired. It's just perfect.
And Bill Burr was on fire, and I hope he doesn't take it wrong, but to me, it didn't feel like he was acting. That's like him. Being an angry guy, frustrated guy.
And he played Ed Harris's role from the
Yeah.
movie. And then Kieran was Al Pacino.
I think so. And of course, Bob Odenkirk was played by...
For Jack Lemmon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who
It's
was...
very, very painful.
That is a painful character in the movie. Jack Lemmon is...
Yeah, it is.
An outstanding actor.
Yeah.
But he's the character on The Simpsons is based on that.
Oh, really?
The one who's always like, you're going to make it. Don't even worry about it.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's based on Jack Lemmon.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, no shit. From Glengarry Glen Ross?
Yeah, the guy who's always afraid that.
Yeah.
He's like, you're gonna make it skip or whatever. I forget his name, but that whole thing is based on Jack Lemmon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's very cool, man. I was just in New York and I saw the sign and the play had started, and I would really like to see that on Broadway, just because so many of the actors and Burr also.
I had a ticket, but I didn't know. But Club Soda Kenny made me stand in line like an asshole. And everybody knew that I had a ticket, but they made me stand in line hoping that I could get a ticket. And he was great. He got me a ticket, took me to backstage, saw Bill Bird, and he was very, very kind. But, he had to tease me because something about my personality he liked to. He was telling everyone at the staff that I was his karate instructor. I don't know anything about martial art. He's like 7'3",
But everybody believes it.
Yeah.
Is Burr a big guy?
He's about my height, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I would say Bob Odenkirk and Kieran have to be pretty short.
Bob didn't seem that tall to me, but he wasn't short either. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, he would just walk around the backstage,
He's one of my sort of comedy Mount Rushmore. Just people I really admire Bob Odenkirk. Like he's just from creating Mr. Show to the Ben Stiller show.
Oh God,
to
yes.
Van Down by the River on SNL and like everything that he was able to do and joining Second City after getting SNL. Like his story is just one of my favorites.
And I think his character for Breaking Bad was like a small role, but because he was so great, they expand his character,
Yeah, he was saying that. Why am I blanking on the creator?
Vince Gilligan.
Vince Gilligan, thank you. Was saying that he wrote it kind of for like a couple episodes and then it to be let
He's
go.
supposed to die, I think.
Yeah, I think in like the second or third appearance, and then he was so good that he ended up with a spin-off.
And there was a couple episodes when Bob couldn't do it, so they created the character Mike, which was going to be like a one episode thing, but they loved him so much they expanded him. Just like Jesse Pinkman was supposed to be like 1 or 2 episodes. It just shows like you should take your role seriously and show up and do your job because you never know. Maybe it would have been one episode, but next thing you know, you have a career.
And Mike's been around Hollywood forever. He's in tons of movies. I think he's in RoboCop. He's in all these movies where he's really recognizable as an '80s actor, but then you don't later in life kind of recognize him.
Who is that?
Mike on the show. He's sort of the right-hand man of the guy who owns the chicken place. God, it's been a while since I've watched this.
Gus Fring.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got the granddaughter. He's doing everything for her.
Am I blinking?
I don't know why I am either, but yeah,
I think he was also in Beverly Hills Cop.
He was in Beverly Hills Cop, yeah. He's always a good bad guy. But in that, he's such a weirdly good bad guy because he's like, I love the line, and it sticks with me from that show of just, we really had a nice thing going when he's looking at Walt, because all he's trying to say is like, I had my granddaughter, I was taking care of everything, this drug exists, everything was running smooth, then you showed up. And it's just this perfect line, the way that he delivers it, because you had empathy for him. And how do you have empathy for a guy like that?
Yeah.
And it's he played it so well that he was probably my favorite character on the entire series.
It made me sad when he said, Walter, just let me die in peace.
That was it too, yeah.
Oh, God, it was so painful.
Yeah, because it was perfect. But tell you what is also pretty cool.
What's that?
Yoshi here just visited Dr. Ann. It's Burgess, right?
Burgess, yeah.
Burgess, okay.
If anyone fan of the Mindhunter, one of my favorite TV series of all time on Netflix, the main character, Dr. Carr, is based on Dr. Ann Burgess, and she still is psychiatric nursing in Boston area, and I believe in early 70s, FBI contact her because they're just interested in her studies on sexual assault and rape.
Yeah, she's the author of Killer by Design, Murders, Mindhunter, obviously, and My Quest to Decipher the Criminal Mind, as well as a book you were reading called Rape.
Yes. By the way, that book that you mentioned is 3-part series in FX.
Is it?
And, yes, it's excellent. If you don't have time to read the book, watch it on Hulu.
Is that the
FX Hulu, and it's a 7-part series. And 2 Hollywood actors produced it. Oh my God, they're 2 sisters.
Yeah, we're off today. I get it.
Dakota and Elle Fanning.
That's right. They produced it, and she is one of the most remarkable person I ever met in my life, and her expertise. John Douglas was one of the Quantico Behavioral Science Unit, and Robert Ressler and Robert Hazelwood. Those 3 guys are. It's like a godfather, the founding father of a behavioral unit for FBI, but she is instrumental. And it's just amazing that she never cared about not getting publicity, because she is equal, if not greater than some of those men.
And that's why when I looked into Mindhunter and I found out it really traced back to her, I was surprised, because it very much, obviously the series is very male-focused at the time.
Yeah, and I think it was very difficult for her to, I think it was Robert Hazelwood.
She's the Barbara Walters of serial rape.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think what she did...
Kind of
creepy.
Great comparison.
I just want to add some levity.
I think what she did was people just assume, like, a lot of time when people got raped, they were kind of asking for it.
Yeah. Well, you saw what they were wearing.
Oh my God.
What?
And
don't dress like it.
And I think what she did was,
I hear you,
like
girlfriend.
I'm talking to you.
I know you are. It was my fault.
Well, you were reading Anne's book.
Terrible thing to do, by the way.
I want to, sorry to derail your thought, but you were reading Dr. Anne's book, Rape.
I have a subtitle, and
I brought it up not just to say rape, but you were reading it on a train in New York.
I was reading the book.
On the subway.
How-to guide.
I think I was going to Washington Heights or something, and it was like really 11 p.m. middle of the night. So anyway, I'm reading like
Good time to read a book, Rape.
And it was so amazing, because I was just kind of, oh my God, that's true, that's correct, yeah, this is great, yeah, I'm just kind of talking to myself. I didn't realize
Like
the whole
most people
time
on
I'm
a
saying
subway
that
do.
Yeah.
people are seeing me reading a book called Rape, and look
Poor
like
dummies.
it just looked like I was learning how to rape. That's not what I was doing. There's black lady was just giving me that dirty look, like, no, you didn't, you little shit. But
Yeah, like just enjoying a book.
She's like, just try it.
But it's just amazing for somebody who went to nursing and noticed that there was a problem of rape, because she was talking to local community people, and then did a research. And in addition to studying the perpetrator of the crime, you also have to study the victim and figure out, get a big picture, like, why did they pick particular victims and who are doing it? And it was important, and it was really brave of her when Mr. Robert Hazelwood, I hope I'm saying his name right, contacted her, and she gave speech to FBI. And these are all men. men, and they just kind of smirking and not paying any sort of respect to her. But once she started talking and it's clear that she know what she was talking about. And once she started showing pictures of these women getting beaten and raped, and they got really, really serious. They didn't realize how serious a problem this was, And I think a lot of the serial killers, there is a huge component of sexual violence, and it had a lot to do with fantasy and things like that.
In your culture, in your homeland, do you see that as much as in America, where because I know there's, if you look at, I guess, I don't want to just say, because Japanese, Chinese, it's all different.
It's different.
Chinese, look at these, but
Yeah.
but they're all what?
Same noodle, different sauce.
But no, you know what I mean. Like they're all it's all different culture. But if you look at like a Korean movie, might be far more sexually bizarre than some other movie. You know what I mean? Like I guess there's a line in America that I always find when you look at a serial killer of this line of sexual behavior that then leads to violence.
Yeah.
And there's always this line that tends to get crossed further and further and further, especially at that time with serial killers. It was very, very common. And like, does she talk about how she found, because she's responsible for catching, or at least putting in the work to catch a lot of people.
Oh, sure. And she was instrumental helping those three men that I mentioned, and I think, I think what she did, if you watch Mindhunter, is exactly what happened. You have to have a certain discipline and scientifically record these incidents, and put a database so you could start noticing a pattern why these people are behaving the way they are.
Well, and you have to notice that you're being manipulated by the person that you're interviewing, or at least they're going to try to do that to a degree.
Oh, sure. I'm glad you said that, because during the 2 hours that she was giving lectures, she will ask the audience, do you think this person was lying? Like one of them was John Wayne Gacy. Clearly, he's a fucking liar. Mm-hmm. But when they were interviewing Ed Kemper, it was clearly he was completely honest. And
he was the larger one in the series, if you watch that, who had the mustache. In
the Santa Cruz area where he killed his grandparents. Then he was sent to juvenile hall-like facility for a while. Once they released later on, I don't know how many co-ed students he murdered, but he also killed his mom and his mom's best friend. And
his candor about it was eerie.
Yeah, and he turned himself in. They didn't catch the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
he was like injecting himself into the police investigation and stuff too.
Yes, and here's another interesting fact about Ed Kemper.
And that's Ed Kemper?
Mm-hmm.
Another interesting Ed Kemper, sometimes they hire inmates to do jobs for like 10 cents an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
He does some voice work for some of those Star Wars video games.
Does he really?
Yeah.
What?
Ed Kemper?
I believe so, yeah.
No, I believe that to be true. I mean, I know Berkowitz has done some weird stuff. There's definitely a few of them. It adds up. And who was the name you said before Ed Kemper? Oh, John Wayne Gacy was an interesting story because, do you remember the pen pal that he had?
I'm blinking.
It was a kid who was writing him. Like, I shouldn't say a kid, but a very young reporter.
Yeah.
And something who would be up Gacy's alley. So he's writing him, and there's actually there is a movie and a book about it because it's the letters back and forth between him and John Wayne Gacy. But he's writing him, and John Wayne Gacy is basically convincing him, kind of his innocence and what he did do, and he convinces him just in pen of his and to come finally visit him and talk to him.
Damn.
And I mean, it's like maybe 5 minutes when Gacy attacks him. So he still had that ability to kind of manipulate the victims. Because if you think about how many people he killed, you have to be good at that level of mind control to lure somebody into trusting you that much. And he was still able to do it, guilty behind bars.
The trick, the magic trick that he does is that he'll put handcuffs on.
Yes.
Like that, right? He take it off. Like, see, this is how you take it off. And he'll make the victim put it on, and that guy's life is over. Once he put a handcuff, he's done with. He'll rape the person and then murder him, And,
the neighborhood smells terrible.
Yeah.
It's true. That's how he got found. It was a hot summer, and people were like, hey, your house smells like corpses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to that location in Chicago. They had a new building.
It's ripped down now. So's the Dahmer
I went there too,
Yeah, I
but
did
by
as
the time
well.
I got there, the apartment was gone because they didn't want to make some sort of shrine for all the weirdos. You know?
Yeah, his parents' house is still near Cuyahoga Falls, I think it is, in Ohio or Akron.
Who, Dahmer's?
Dahmer's, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because he wasn't from, but the building where they actually pulled the bodies out, that was Milwaukee.
Right.
Now, Gacy have an interesting connection to the reason why we don't have access to Jeffrey Epstein's list and stuff like that. You know, there was a guy named John David Norman who was like a huge pedophile, lived in Houston and a couple other places, but he was also living in Chicago, and he was publishing a lot of pedophile periodical where subscribers will read it and have access to like young boys traveling around the country. And I think he had a Rolodex of subscriber between 50 to 70,000. But every time he got caught, those lists disappeared. The first time State Department got him, and I believe it was Passport Department got those database with name, address, and things like that. It disappeared. And he got caught twice. So he got caught 2 times with prominent people subscribing to this pedophile thing.
Big ass databases. Yeah.
Databases where they have access to, they had a ways to send all these kids throughout the United States. And only reason a couple of them got caught because I think Chicago Tribune, one of those newspaper or local TV station, had a camera over the Rolodex. So those people got caught because it's on the film.
Yeah.
Both time, all those lists are disappear. And Gacy had a buddy named Phil Paschke, who also knew John David Norman, and they also have a connection to Dean Corll down in Houston, the Candyman.
That's what I was just going to say, the Candyman killer.
Yeah, so they all had a connection. They have all those lists, and John David Norman.
I couldn't even finish that book. That was too much with the kids.
What's that? Which book?
Candyman Killer in Houston. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. I went to the house like a couple years ago, and then 6 months there it disappeared. But I think it's sad because we have terrible idea about sex workers. So when they were getting kidnapped and murdered, nobody cared. And many of these runaway boys and girls, but especially young boys in Chicago area, they're getting murdered by John Wayne Gacy's and people like that down in Houston with Dean Corll and things like that. And I hope we're doing a better job. But yeah, it's...
I think we're doing a better job with catching killers. I don't think we're doing a better job with not creating sex workers. Not that you should. I'm not saying one way or another what people go into. I'm just saying I think that a lot of the foster systems, there's great people and there's bad people, and and you see the result of that. Dean Carroll was in Houston, and he was connected to Gacy through exactly what he's talking about, the writings.
Okay,
and they kind of ignored every sign that you possibly could for a very long time until they ended up going, I believe it was to his boathouse.
Yeah, right? And I think there was I forgot the guy's name, something Elmer. There's teenage boys that he was ready, Dean Corll was ready to murder, but they became buddies. So these teenage boys would bring other teenage boys over Dean Corll, and they're murdering them.
And that's what the book was about. It was called...
It's a really rough story.
Yeah, it was I believe it was called The Killer's Right-Hand Man.
Yeah.
And it was about the kids that he manipulated to help him kill these other kids.
And
he would use them as bait.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that character's in Mindhunter as well.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for Netflix, but one thing that disappointed me that we didn't have season 3, 4, and 5, because if you haven't seen that Mindhunter series, I'm telling you, it's the most important thing Netflix has ever made, because it tells you psychopathy and some of the reasons why we have so many terrible things happen in the world.
And it does
it's an incredible show.
It does it without being that gruesome, is what I like about it. It's really it plays with your brain. It plays with your mind, and it gets you into the head of a serial killer, as opposed to just being like all gore and torture. It's more like you're just listening to these guys. And
when was this out? Because I got to pull this up.
You should check it out.
2017 to 2019 or something like that, maybe.
Okay.
But
they only did 2 seasons of it.
Yeah, because it cost so much money. Fenchner did it, but I'm telling you, it is an incredible television show. It teaches you and the history of how behavioral science unit in Quantico was created with Dr. Ann Burgess' character, fictionalized name Dr. Carr, but it is a phenomenal show. And in between season 1 and 2, they make reference to Dennis Rader, which is Bind, Torture, and Kill, BTK. Because BTK, out of all the serial killers, has the most fetishes, most interesting, and the most confounding one because he broke all kinds of rules about what constitutes serial killer. They're usually not married. He was married. They usually can't hold a job. He carried the job. He was also head of the church and
deacon
like
at his church. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and a good father, according to his daughter's book.
yeah.
Wasn't he at Kansas?
Yes, Wichita.
Wichita. Yeah. Well, and he only got caught. He was very good, but he got caught because he sent I believe it was a floppy disk. Yeah.
From the church, from the church's computer.
Yeah.
And he said, "You can't find me through this, right?" And the cop said, "No."
He would have gotten away with it too.
Yes.
But it was just that ego.
Yeah.
Somebody was.
He went a long time without doing it too.
Yes.
He would also eat bowls of cereal at the scene of the crimes because he thought he had a very funny sense of humor. Like, oh, serial killer.
Yes. One of the box was cereal box.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
That
He was a
alone
piece of
is
shit.
a reason to kill him.
Right.
Have you guys seen his pictures of him binding himself?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
They're weird.
Well, he looks. He did die, didn't he?
No,
No, he's
still
in
alive.
prison.
He looks terrible. Like the last pictures I saw of him, he looks extra bad.
And
I like a slow death for a guy like that. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
And I think sometimes my friends think I'm just into the murder stuff. That's really, that's partially true, but it's the fantasy part I'm really interested in. This guy, you could never punish guys like Dennis Rader and Charles Manson because Manson always told everyone like, I'm free, man. I'm riding a bicycle in San Francisco right now. You know what I mean? Like you impede his movement, but he lives in here. You know what I mean?
Well, you didn't lock up. I mean, he wasn't a murderer.
Yes.
He just caused to get the jail sentence that Charles Manson got for just being connected to something without really I mean, there's obviously the proof and everything. You can just look at him in the way that he talks. But the idea of this charismatic guy telling them to go and do everything, there's a bizarre thing to that because he's just out of his mind. But if you have enough people on the right amount of drugs at the right time and they're lost people living in the streets, you can have somebody like that as a leader. I mean, even the entire murder that he was responsible for was a mistake.
Yeah.
They went to the wrong house.
Yeah.
Bianca's, right?
Yeah.
La Bianca, yeah.
La Bianca. And also, it had Brian Wilson died yesterday or today.
Yesterday, yeah.
Yesterday, and his brother have a connection with Manson because.
Oh, yeah.
And they went to his house, but he moved out because I don't know, something to do with financial problem. I can't remember, but I think he's covering that book Chaos, if I remember right. And
Who went to whose house?
I know when they killed. Why am I'm forgetting?
Sharon Tate.
Sharon Tate.
Sharon Tate.
Yeah.
There was somebody else was living in the house, and unfortunately for her and her friends, the forger coffee descendant. What is it? Connects. Wasn't one of the forgers?
heiress.
Heirs.
Yeah.
There's two it was.
All those people there. Yeah, and.
But he is connected to a lot of those bands because he was in that music scene where he was connected to not as much Brian Wilson, even though they knew each other. It was one of the brothers though that was the Beach Boy, but then he started.
One of them was hitchhiking, and it kind of make a reference to Once Upon a Time Hollywood. Remember all those hippies are kind of hitchhiking.
Oh yeah, well, and you have the Manson pull up to the house.
Yeah,
because what I love about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's basically saying if this thing didn't happen, that changed the way that we looked at people.
Yes.
What would have gone on in Hollywood? Would it have continued to be more of this innocent, free thing where we weren't so aware of how dark and dangerous it could possibly be? And it was as simple as Brad Pitt, who I swear has to be on acid in that scene because he's too good.
Yeah.
And just bashing that girl's head against the chimney. And it's just because it saves old America. Basically, it makes the point that this was the moment where everything changed.
That was such a great movie.
Oh, it's his best. And that scene is one of my favorites because then he's sitting in the pool as the Wild West guy at the end who's just taken a flamethrower to somebody. And it's an interesting twist on the event.
I really love that movie because unfortunately for most of the victims, when they get murdered by serial killers, they're forever known for that only. And to me, when Tarantino made this movie, it was almost like a tribute to Sharon Tate. Like now we could remember her differently. What could have been. It's a very sad if Manson had a record deal, because he came pretty close getting a record deal.
He did.
And I thought, like, could you imagine if he had a record deal? Probably we would have probably different history, you know.
No, there's not the bitterness and anger and things that are building up in order for him to cause all of these things.
Yeah.
Like to find him guilty of murder without murdering anybody, and then never being. I mean, it is hard to get parole when it's like, did you carve a swastika into your forehead?
And nothing shows that you're centered and focused and dialed in
Right.
doing that.
Right, but I mean, I think you're right. And even later in life, when I remember there was a Manson song at the end of the Spaghetti Incident by Guns N' Roses as an extra track. And there was like other people that have played like a few Manson songs on their albums.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not him singing it, but
Yeah.
it's them performing it.
I don't want to make excuse for Manson, but I also want to be fair to him that he was raped multiple times and molested as a kid and in prison as well. And I think when these things happen, there's a repercussion, you know.
Well, you're creating monsters.
Yeah.
You're either creating monsters. I mean, somebody's so broken, angry, vengeful, or they somehow deal with that, which I can't imagine.
Yeah.
that
How?
takes. How do you do it? Yeah.
Right.
I think if we make this conversation very difficult, and I was kind of shocked because I went to Diddy's case, and I remember when I was in the room, there was a sensitive conversation between the judge with the prosecution defense, like, we don't want to re-traumatize the witness, and I was kind of shocked by that because if you're not allowed to say what you need to say it, you might not get conviction. Wouldn't that be more traumatic if you don't put this guy in prison?
Yeah, can you imagine that? I mean, to hold back
Yeah.
for the sake of someone's feelings, only to end up having this end up being a loophole that ends up letting this,
Yeah.
I don't know what's
on the
the
street.
I don't know how you balance the two, because until the judge brought it up, I thought it was a good point too. But like, how do you balance that? Like, you want to be sensitive, but if you're too sensitive, you don't. You know what I mean? You can't say
you
the
have
things
to
that need to be said.
Yeah. You have to be able to see the victim's trauma to some degree.
Yeah.
And if you're
especially as a juror.
right, and if you're sort of subduing that's
Yeah.
difficult for them to make an actual decision unless there's a video, and a lot of I think that what's hard about the Diddy case, at least from what I've seen so far, and I could be wrong, but yes, he's a creepy, scummy pervert.
Yeah.
But is it illegal?
No.
That's the problem. And that's when you look at it right now, you go, yeah, he's not. I mean, he hit her with a vase, but from what I understand, there's no charges pressed. So you have her still on his side, which is eerie, but not uncommon in domestic abuse.
I don't want to get too personal. You don't have to answer this question, but do you have an honest conversation with your son about sex?
Not yet.
But you will.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what made me sad as I'm sitting there and I have worked in sex business for a long time, and
I was just going to have you come over and ruin his life.
Can you imagine having
He's like,
Yoshi
"Listen."
come by?
no.
No, I would never.
Son, here, I'd like to introduce you to
He's going to
Yoshi.
tell you, listen, when a guy and a girl and a gorilla. All right,
He's
so.
and tentacles.
Yeah.
I've had so many of my friends' kids over the years email or call me and ask me questions. I'm not afraid to have this conversation, but
Right.
I cannot bypass parent supervision. So I told them,
yeah.
I'm more than happy to talk to you if your parents say yes. And they said, like, no, I can't talk to my parents. And my whole point with the Diddy thing was, it just sad to me, like, you have to go to second highest level of court to have finally this conversation, because I love this country, but sex for some reason is a very difficult subject matter. And I think it makes me sad that we have to wait until somebody commit these kind of crimes to have a conversation. Isn't it better to have this awkward conversation in the beginning and prevent something like this from happening?
and not have it in a courtroom.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my argument's always been we're very puritanical, but we're very okay with violence.
Yeah.
And I often wonder if that's part of the problem, is because if you look at sex as being as bad as violence, eventually that's going to cross wires with people. And I think it's been proven over and over again.
I think some people have orgasm through violence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember distinctly reading
Derek
about...
was punching me in the bathroom just minutes.
Then
Can't help it.
It just became very awkward.
But you know what's not awkward before we get into this? It's just because we're going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, we are.
And I want to talk to you a bit about Chef IQ.
It's so good.
Well, you
Well,
got.
your
I've been
husband
using
uses
it.
it.
My husband's been
And
using
you
it
do
every
use
day.
it?
Yes.
I finally got one too, and I grilled, and I'm going to tell you what, it's awesome.
Chef
It's
IQ.
awesome.
Yeah, I used to always go out, and you don't want to overflip your meat on your grill, at least not me, because you lose all the juices.
Yeah, every
When-
time you open it.
Yeah. And then you're using that smoky, the robe. And what you do is you just take this, it's this thingamabob. I'm not even going to read off this, but you have an app for it. You just put it into the meat. It tells you the exact temperature. And when you come out, you just have to open your grill once. You flip it over. Same deal.
Thingamabob?
Walk away.
You mean a thermometer?
It's a thermometer.
It sends
Yes.
you messages on your phone. There's like an app connected to it. It constantly tells you what the temperature is, when to flip it. It even gives you recipes and
Yeah.
stuff. If you don't know how to cook meat or fish or whatever,
Oh, nice.
ribs, it'll tell you a step-by-step guide.
That's
Set
cool.
the oven to 350. Do this, do that. And it constantly tells you the temperature. It's awesome.
And it monitors the whole time, and then it predicts when it's going to be ready, even in advance when you come out. It's not like, oh, it's ready now. It's like, it's going to be 3 minutes, whatever. It's really, really cool.
Which is so cool because it's on your. Because yeah, Angela was showing me this earlier. Like it's the app, and you're sitting there watching the game instead of going out there and checking the food every 2
Yeah, and
seconds.
flipping it every minute.
And opening the grate and
It comes out perfect.
The grill, yeah.
too.
Yeah, that's what I
I
mean.
cooked
like,
ribs the other night. They were so good. They were fall off the bone. They were
oh,
so
those
good.
are the best. Yeah, like you're getting something that's just restaurant quality because you're not having to sit there and flip it and ruin your meat. And I have many times ruined my meat. And I'll tell you, Chef IQ,
It is so hard to not comment.
it is, but it's such a great product. Honestly, this is the world's smartest, simple to use wireless cooking sensor, and they just announced a flash sale. Flash sale. Oh. You need to jump on this. Summer grilling season is here, and Chef IQ makes you grill like a master. Did you know that? Now you do. This is the perfect Father's Day gift, honestly. We got Father's Day coming up, and right now during the flash sale, you will save 15%. That's 15% off your order just by using promo code NORMAL. You just go to chefiq.com. That's chefiq.com. Promo code NORMAL, 15% off. You can get it as a Father's Day gift. You can scan that QR code, and I'm telling you, your father or maybe your husband who is a father, they're going to love getting this gift, and it's something that's outside the box. Who needs another necktie? Nobody even wears them anymore.
No.
So there's no reason for it. Get something that he's actually going to use and go, you know what? And they might even look at it and go, I don't know. And then you're going to try it.
And you're
You're
going to
hooked.
reap all the benefits.
Exactly.
Now you got your husband cooking for you every night.
There you go.
There you go.
And men like to grill. They feel good. I'm telling you. Like when you're done grilling steaks and they're actually good and people are looking at you like, all right. Mm-hmm. It's a good feeling.
I got a smoker. I got a grill. I love that. So
Yeah. Oh, you're good at that too.
Can we get Derek some Chef IQ?
Yeah.
Told him. I'll talk to him about it.
Sweet.
Please get us some Chef IQ for Derek, and if Yoshi would like some.
Well, Dave, 4th of July is around the corner
Yes.
as well, so it's a perfect gift for that.
Oh, there
So
you go.
true.
All
So
right.
true.
And
Get Yoshi a Chef IQ, and then also some neckties.
that's right. For a different reason.
Tie up whatever the. Okay.
And thank you very much, Chef IQ, for sponsoring this episode. We really do value your product.
We love it.
Very, very cool
All
stuff.
right, now sex crimes.
Now back to sex crimes.
You got to stop and have a meal.
Well, yeah,
Then you
know,
go back to the story.
You can't just run around all day like Dennis Rader driving through the night.
Right. We were talking about the Diddy trial.
Yeah.
You were, yeah.
And the fact that you were, like, people don't know that you need to stand in line to get to watch this thing.
Well, to give you some idea, when I got into the main room for Ghislaine Max,
Because I had no idea what this. I mean, I knew that there was obviously, people could come in there and watch it, but I didn't know the whole procedure behind this.
yeah, you show up because there's only X number of space for the room, and I figure this is going to be a pretty big case. So I show up May 11th, Sunday. The first day is May 12th.
For the Diddy trial?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I show up 11:30 p.m. I'm like 9-10 hours before trying to get into the main room.
Right.
When I got there in Southern District in New York City, there's already like 50 people ahead of me. And they're professional standing. So they will stand in line for like 10 hours, sell their spot for like $200, $300, $400, depends on whoever want to pay that much money. And
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you could say whatever you want about Diddy, but he has created. He's good for economy. I'm like,
Especially if you're in the oil business.
oil and rape and like it's a job maker. You know, sexual assault is a big job maker, right? So
Yeah, if you're in the trafficking field
Yeah,
as
that
well.
escort got a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of miles.
I knew the court was going crazy because I went to the court early Sunday, May 11th, like noon.
Yeah.
They were already like they're cleaning and they were also painting. Like they were getting. I've been to a bunch of other major
Making
cases.
it all fancy.
I have not seen that before, and they're already getting ready for like how big this thing is. And then I went. So you have like you need cook at the cafeteria. You have a cameraman. You have all this like podcasters and then the reporters, and you need the police. Like know,
Right.
but this is so big. If it's nothing compared to like even Ghislaine Maxwell, because for Ghislaine, if I showed up maybe 5 or 6 a.m., most likely I'd probably get in. I already knew at 11:30 p.m. that I'm not going to go into the main room on the first day.
Right.
And I found a loophole late first day, and I was
Is it
able.
around Epstein's neck?
No,
The last person that got a necktie for Father's Day, Jeffrey Epstein.
they had this dumb rule where during lunchtime everybody have to leave the main room, which is on 26th floor. If you don't get into 26th floor, you
This
go
is for
to
Ghislaine?
yeah.
Okay.
And no, for Diddy,
for Diddy, okay.
26th, the highest floor. If you can't get in, you go to the overflow room, which is like 25th and 24th. And I find out that during lunch, everybody have to leave, and you have to start the whole processing again. So on the second day, I was in the overflow room, and around 10:45 a.m., 11, I ran down and got into the line. And I think I stayed in line for 90 minutes, 2 hours. And eventually, after lunch, I was able to get in. So that's the only time I got in. And I think from day 3 on, if you're in the main room from get-go, you get to stay. So they changed the rule. So that was the only reason why I got into the main room on day 2. And it's the one with Cassie was there.
Yeah.
And Diddy's family's on the far left-hand side. And I was looking, I can't find him. I didn't realize he's at the MDC, which is Metropolitan Detention Center, and you can't have like a color for your hair. So his hair got gray, but I was looking for a youngish looking black man with a black hair.
Yeah, young looking Diddy.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't find him, and eventually I see him with a silver hair looking over shoulder, and he was dressing really well with a sweater, but I laughed loud because he looked like a young Bill Cosby.
Right.
And if you're, you know what I mean? Like if you're being accused of rape, looking like another rapist is probably not a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if you're.
If Hitler went to, let's say Hitler didn't kill himself, he's sent to like,
Argentina, for example, where
No, I mean, if he was sent to court to defend himself, and he decided to look like Stalin, it doesn't help you. You know what I'm saying?
no. Also, I can't.
You want to stay away from a thing that people are accusing of.
You need a better image consultant.
So when he turned
P.
over,
Diddy's pulling his lawyer's like, here, wear a sweater.
yeah.
Wear a colorful sweater.
So when you look over, I laughed loud, and then I got in trouble. Bailiffs said like, shh, like that. Like, but come on, that is really funny. He looked like Bill Cosby, right? I mean, I'm biting my finger really hard, like. You can't be mad at me. This is like being so ironic, right?
It's a poor choice.
So I laughed. So he's staring at me, and of course, my nipples got really hard, and
Sure.
When Diddy was staring at you?
yeah, like holy shit, like he was staring, but he fucking
Yes,
stared. And it's interesting. He was kind of quiet during the week. As the time passed, he got more active. He'll be like cheerleading. He was like a Deion Sanders. Like he was sending notes to his lawyers, and like every time they said something was good for him, he would kind of cheer. And then he was getting kind of trouble with the judge.
He would kind of cheer?
I mean, if this is something that was favorable for him, like that's right. He was doing that kind of stuff. He was being more
damn.
charismatic. And that will have influence in jurors. You know what I mean?
That's a hip hop alter ego almost.
Yeah, and he's very charismatic, but he wasn't doing that during the first week. But also, the first witness on the day 1, he was like a black male stripper / escort. He's never, pardon my language, for money. But when Cassie called and looking for male talent, it was supposed to be a room full of women. But when he showed up in Gramercy, New York, it was just her and some strange guy sitting in the corner. And they start having sex and kind of start masturbating, and
Right.
and that's male stripper asks, "What do you do for a living?" And Diddy doesn't reveal himself, like, "Oh, into import export business," which is kind of funny because he does the whole sex trafficking shit, right?
Right.
And
So he technically didn't lie.
he didn't lie, but another time they brought a skinny black guy. They're having sex with Cassie. The guy was just looking straight, but he was looking at this direction of Diddy, and then he goes, "Hey, motherfucker, you don't look at me." And he just started yelling at the guy, and they both panic because it doesn't matter how big you are. This is a guy with all kinds of power and money. So they really panic, like, even when they saw him beat up Cassie, he called back and later said, "Hey, we're cool with everything. I don't want to cause any sort of problem,
Well, yeah, because he has the ability to take everything from you.
Yeah, he shot somebody. Remember that at the
Oh, yeah.
nightclub and had somebody else take the blame.
He was
for
with
him?
J-Lo and somebody
Yes,
else.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Well, and now it's coming out where he likes to pretend he's Michael Jordan in the bedroom. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, it was a Michael Jordan, Shaquille.
What?
Yeah, like it was a whole thing, Kobe, like a fantasy that he had.
I do that.
So I know.
I do Bill Lambier. I play a big. I fantasize about being a 7-foot tall, white, awkward dude.
I do Lu Ming of the Raiders.
I pictured you more as a Michelle Kwan type.
I do a Caitlyn, whoever the hell.
Clark.
Clark.
Caitlin Clark.
And Dave, it was so unnerving. By the way, all your wonderful listeners, this is one thing you never want to hear. It goes something like this: United States versus Dave Landau, or whatever your name is.
Oh,
'Cause
never.
You don't want to hear that because you could just feel the weight of the court. Southern District is the second most powerful court system in the whole country, and they have a 90 to 95% success rate of convicting you. And people who are running the court, they're very ambitious. They're thinking about becoming the mayor of New York City or president or governor. So they don't want to get embarrassed. So they're coming after you. I don't care how rich Diddy is. They're coming after you with the wealth of a whole country. The weight of it is just scary.
Yeah, and the morality a lot. I mean, that's when you have to look at like Larry Flint, who still gets shot when it was against him. People versus him. People versus Charlie Chaplin. That was during the what was it? The
Underage girl thing that he was in trouble for?
he had that, but he also had the communism.
Oh, that's right.
Trials. He had.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, they went by fairly quick. But the books that I read is mainly about that. But he was horrible to women.
Yeah.
I mean, he would have them audition and just throw actual cream pies at them after they undressed. Like he was. I mean, as much of a genius as he was a monster. I mean, you can look at the Great Dictator and go, I think it's a beautiful speech, but behind closed doors, he was still very much a narcissist who was able to kind of build himself into the first movie star.
I mean, it's only cream pies.
Well, I know, but even him and Buster Keaton were not. Buster Keaton was not like that, but the idea of being an actor was repulsive to people.
Right.
You didn't want to be that. And he made it so it was this huge thing, as well as Fatty Arbuckle.
Yes.
Fatty Arbuckle, in turn, got falsely accused of rape. And even though he was the first person to sign a $1 million 3-picture deal,
Yeah.
his career was over.
I think one of the reasons why we have Oscars is because the Catholic League saw Hollywood as Babylon and corrupt system. But as soon as you have an award, what you do is you legitimize their lifestyles and their careers and the movies that they make. Awards are really one way to legitimize whatever the terrible things that they're doing.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, and now either you're voting for that for a certain reason, or you're just not even watching the movie and you're checking a box.
Yeah.
So you can tell people you vote for whatever this is, A, B, and C. But the people who want whatever to win is going to win.
They aren't even required to watch it until this year.
Correct, yeah.
I did not know that.
Now they have to know for sure. And yeah, that's brand new this year. So that's why movies like The Artist and these other like just awful movies have won Best Picture.
Yeah.
Because they decide who's going to win Best Picture before it actually happens. And I don't know how far back that goes because there's been a lot of contenders that you wouldn't have expected.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there's just a lot of garbage that has been passed through and passed over. Great movies passed over.
Just going back in the beginning of the show, Glenn Ross, I think should have won a couple of Tonys, but because Dave Mammoth's been conservative, so I think whoever votes, they probably rejected him. Even
automatically just tossed him aside.
Yeah, because I saw
the great move, or great play with a great cast.
Well, and the speech the transgender woman did was sort of the toast of the town.
Oh, Mary.
Yes. That night, yeah.
I'll be honest, I love that. Oh, Mary. I've seen it twice. It's great.
Yeah, and I don't think her speech was bad or anything for what it was. I mean, there was so much with the LA riots, I wasn't like, what's happening on the Tonys? But I do feel that the Glengarry...
I'm so gay. I was so busy watching it. I'll be honest with you.
You're just rewinding. You're like, I love that hairy chest. But it was fine, the videos that I saw, and I've never seen that. And I like a lot of Broadway, so I've seen tons. I've seen, one of my favorite was Cranston on doing Network.
Oh, wow, yes.
Yeah,
I saw in London, too.
It's great. Yeah, so, when you get the right people together, and Mamet being such the extraordinary film writer too. Like he always was somebody who used language that you weren't supposed to use.
Yes.
He always wanted everything to sound like real people. And as he's gotten older, you're right, he has become more conservative. I mean, he wrote an entire book, I think it's called Everywhere's an Oink Oink. And that's about dealing with every meeting he's had in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So he's certainly given the middle finger to them on more than one occasion.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, when he was more online with the liberal policies like 40 years ago, he won so many Tonys, right?
Oh, yeah.
They don't care you play horrible characters, say horrible things in the play. They're okay with that. But if you really think like that outside of the stage, they have issues, I think,
Yeah, and it's odd because the definition of horrible, it's like it's not necessarily a bad like he writes all these characters that are layered and nuanced, and that's what I think I like about Mamet is it's not. Alec Baldwin is the exception where he comes in, but that guy is a dick, has been a dick since day one, but who knows if he's trying to prove something to his dad. There's a deep part to that character.
Yeah.
And then when you look at all the characters that he's written, Spartan with Val Kilmer is a really underrated movie, too, that he wrote.
Oh, that's Mammoth? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was Mamet, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that he's done that I think is just, it's tremendous work that was, it was so risk-taking at the time, you'd have to call it liberal.
Yeah.
But I think that when other things take over and you start trying to develop a culture of what you want there to be on stage as opposed to the individual character, you lose something. I think that's why Network is so special, because you watch a guy's descent into madness, but he's really not that crazy.
And you guys both from Detroit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's that fucking engine of this country used to be. And I met plenty of people from there. They're like, okay, maybe they're just regular folks, but they're hardworking people, the soul of this country, right? Those people talk in a very earthly language, the way Dave Mammoth characters talk like that, And I think, I don't know why people in those level establishment kind of look down on those people.
And
hate it.
It's odd, too, because a lot of them come from those families.
Yeah.
They know why that is. And there's even a largely, at times, what you would call even a democratic work ethic.
Yeah.
It was you talk about Irish Americans, people in Detroit, what they would vote for, what they thought was good for them.
Yes.
It's odd how they don't want to understand their parents, the way that everything shifts. And I think some of the best writing that you can have is people that have their finger on the pulse
Absolutely.
of America. And that's a very tragic tale of people trying to sell the unsellable. You're selling crap. And it's like, I worked at a phone, a place where you cold called people to sell. And
that must have been hard.
It was, dude, I quit after 2 days.
Oh my God.
But it was awful. Like I thought you were getting a bunch of money, but it turned out I was selling Rust-Oleum, rust protector with leads. I'm like 16. You're calling up and you're going, I think you might want some Rust-Oleum for the brand new car you just bought. And they're like, Why would my car rust? I just bought it. Who gave you my contact? Well, the person who sold you the car did. They just want to know if you wanted an extra layer of rust protection. They're like, why would you sell me a car that rusts? And I'm like, I don't want to talk to you.
I don't.
And then I
This
just
conversation's over.
I quit it. I think I made one sale and it felt awkward. And I called an old lady back and I was like, don't buy this. And I left. Because it feels like boiler room. I mean, some people have that in them to sell, and I will sell something to you if I believe in it. But it's very hard for me to convince somebody.
Yeah, to buy
a
something
product.
that's garbage.
I can't do it.
Right.
But people can.
Oh yeah.
It's the old saying, like I can sell ice to water. I can sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves.
Wow. I have not heard that before.
Tommy boy.
Well played. Yeah.
So there are people that can, and I don't know. I think that's an interesting. I think the way that Mammoth does it is interesting.
I like his stuff. You just feel bad. I know guys like that, men who are desperate. They want to do the right thing, but they can't. Things are not working out for them, and the frustration. That's why, obviously, I'm not white, but I have sympathy for MAGA types of people, because I think they're frustrated because they're looked down upon. I mean, I worked for Michael Dukakis' campaign in 1988.
Okay.
I think that's the last time Democratic Party really cared about working class. Ever since then, it's been pretty elite because I think Bill Clinton really betrayed the working class, in my opinion. He became this corporate hack,
Well, when he signed NAFTA and then kind of walked out of there and tried to put it on Bush,
Yeah.
that was something that woke me up to politics when I was younger. I'm like, well, you just signed the North American Free Trade Agreement.
Right.
And that was very anti-American. And he signed that, took off, and people were blaming it on Bush. And I thought, and I didn't particularly like Bush, especially at 18 years old. I liked watching Will Ferrell play him.
Yeah.
But, I was watching that going like, well, but you just screwed over the country and walked out. And I wasn't really aware of all the stuff that happened.
I was too young, too.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he got head. I don't really care.
Right.
It wasn't anything that affected me. But when I finally started looking at it at an age when I was around college, I started noticing like, oh, these choices affect people.
But the sad thing is, like, if you've been completely honest since early 90s, whether they're Republican or Democrats, at the end of the day, their policy is not that different. They all take money from corporate interests. They're warmongers. And I think you could say whatever you want about Trump, but at least he raised a lot of questions to make people uncomfortable. But he's blunt. But yeah, like, why can't you have tariff or make these unfair trade practices and do something about it? Maybe he doesn't get it done, but why not try something?
And I think it's important to, because if you want to actually bring back manufacturing and integrity, it's the complete opposite. We were discussing yesterday about the woman, staging the protests this weekend, who is the heiress to the Walmart fortune.
Oh, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, she's actually staging this.
No King's rally or something like that, where it's a protest that's going on Saturday. When Trump's having his big, 250th anniversary of the military.
Yeah.
And she's urging these people to go ahead and protest.
But can I just tell you what it is? It's not any different from Tony's. It's just a theater. Oh, it's performance is all theater.
Right.
It's theater, but it's also, I believe there's a gaslighting element to it to destroy mainstream shops and destroy mainstream, because Walmart is guilty of that.
Yeah.
Walmart moving into your area has the same effect as a casino.
Yeah.
Stuff's not going to really work out anymore in that area because people want to go to the place that's cheaper. And I think as Americans, we have to want to pay a little extra. We have to, and some people just flat out can't. I'm not saying that that's their choice, but you have to want a little bit more. I mean, you're looking at the company that put Rubbermaid out of business. You're looking at the company that destroyed so many USA-made jobs. And then she's telling you to go out there and not have to deal with a king or a ruler.
Yeah.
Well, what are you? You've completely taken the corporate world. You've destroyed every business in town. And it's the same as Amazon that goes, they had a diaper company. It was like diapers.com.
Yeah.
And Jeff Bezos took his diapers and sold them for a cost where he was losing millions and millions of dollars because he could. So then that way they're all going to Amazon. This company loses enough money, enough time to go out of business.
Yeah.
And he just jumps back in and raises the price of diapers. That's not a competitive market. That is a monopoly.
Remember Hollywood Video and Blockbuster and things like that?
Yes.
And they were competing with mom and pop. The only way mom and pop video store could compete is if they had a porno section.
Yeah.
And I think what that taught me, and going back to Diddy and stuff like that, perverts around the world, and like it's, you know what I mean. Like being perverted stuff is the only way you could survive at the small level. I think, you know, whether they're sex workers and things like that. I think these people in position of power always look down upon. Don't be pervert or whatever, you know. But
Yeah. Well, I think
perverts run the world, you know.
Well, they do, and I think there's a perversion that's outside of sex. I think there's a perversion of the mind that has to do with control and power and wanting that over people.
Yeah.
Which is just like the Walmart situation.
Very much so.
And also, too, the government, think of when during COVID, during all the lockdowns, when you couldn't go to Dave's paint store to buy paint or to, you know, get whatever you wanted. It was, Walmart's open. Oh, well, that's nice. Every other business is closed, but somehow Walmart's Teflon to your COVID virus.
Right, and I understand on paper, okay, you're doing everything right as an American company, but you're putting these companies out of business, and then you're using child labor. You're doing all these. They don't make a high-quality product. You're not winning in it. You're not going to buy something that's going to last for more than a year. You're buying cheap crap that is just that. It's what you can afford in the moment.
Right.
And I think that's sad. They're not for you. They're not for America. They don't care about you. They just want to convince you, we don't want there to be a king, so listen to me. It's the same thing. You're a ruling class person saying there should be no kings.
You know, I remember like late 60s, there was a group of civil rights protesters at the Oakland port, and they were complaining about what's going on in America and things like that, right? Unbeknownst to them, at the port, they're sending all these containers filled with like weapons and things like that to Asia to fight Vietnam. Well, when they were doing that, those containers empty because they send whatever the stuff they're sending. So they decide, well, why do we have cheap manufacturing in Asia so we could fill it up? So during the war, we were sending all the weapon over to Asia, and we'll bring cheap products from Asia back. And they did right from these American civil rights people. Wall Street and money people are always ahead of poor people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
And that's the sad thing. Like Patrice O'Neill one time told me he doesn't understand money. I don't either. That's why I'm poor. I don't understand money at all. You know?
I mean,
a guy like Epstein knows a lot about sex and money.
There's a way to have money where you acquire a certain amount and you invest well. You get an IRA. You deal with there's a very logical way where I've dealt with money, where in my life I've been lucky, and then in other parts of my life I was very illogical and didn't deal with money well at all. But whenever I've had money, though,
why did you look him like that?
he knows I've had a lot of hits and misses, but it's like I was able to obtain wealth for a while, and it was just based on investing properly, putting things where and living below my means. These things, but they made me comfortable.
Yeah.
And I realize now how important that is versus this gigantic wealth. Like, I mean, I'm sure a $30 million house with a water slide would be fun, but I don't know how that would make my kid a better person. There's just things that you can invest in life that I think are far more important than money can buy you. But that money is a comfort. And if there is a way, rich people, it's like rich dad, poor dad. Poor people do not tell their kids the secrets of the rich. And it wasn't until I had a little bit of money, until I sat down with a financial advisor who said, well, this is what we do A, B, and C to grow your wealth. I didn't know that. So I had to sit down and learn exactly why do you invest in this?
Yeah.
Well, how does an IRA grow? What's the difference, between a Roth? And once you have this information, you realize that, okay, now there's billionaires, though.
Yeah.
They don't own their homes. They have shields over stuff.
Yeah.
They don't want to get sued. There's a whole nother layer to wealth that you and I aren't meant to understand.
And they always use other people's money too. They have assets, you know.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
And then people have assets of luxury cars, which can be written off. People have access, even if you get it let's say, okay, I got this car that's worth $500,000.
Yeah.
I paid $125 in an auction. Well, it's worth $500,000. So there's ways to just to shield your money through assets and through not putting your name on your own property, which I get. You're going to get sued a lot if you're a billionaire because people are just going to try. Like you got to shield it somehow.
Yeah, you got to have layers on top of layers to protect yourself.
Right, but I also can't go like, oh, poor billionaires, because anytime I've had money in my life and I see someone struggling, and maybe to my own detriment, I've always helped them.
Yeah.
I can't look at somebody in an amount of pain where they're losing everything.
Yeah.
And you have a few $100 and you can't just hand it to them. There's no part of me that stops that. It's like if you can take someone's like pain away like that, it's like, well, and it's not even that teach a man to fish thing. It's just sometimes it's very hard. You get a bill thrown at you, you get something thrown at you in life, you get a curveball.
Yeah.
And you should be there for somebody, but we live in such a highly competitive society that I think we forget about each other.
You have always been insanely generous.
Thank you.
As long as I've known you.
Thank you.
You have always been like that.
Thank you. Yes, of you.
So, but I think if you kind of pick up on that stuff when you're hanging around like-minded people that have that same attitude. And
Yeah. Well, and I think I
think it feeds off of it.
Yeah, like
Off of itself.
that was my mom was had her issues, but her thing was always like, if you can't have happiness, try to give it.
Yeah.
And I think if she always said, like, if you had the means to throw money at it, and at times we did, at times we didn't,
Right.
and you could do it. And I don't think that the people who value money and property and assets and everything above all else, they obviously don't share the same core values I do. And maybe that's going to be the worst thing ever. But I guess what I'm saying is you can learn about wealth to make you comfortable, but very few people can learn about wealth and go, this diaper company's starting up. I'm going to destroy everything they have. Even though I have everything I could ever want, including my own rocket ship,
Yeah.
I'm going to screw these people over because it's all about me.
Yeah, that is a level of douchebaggery that I don't even know how somebody can put themselves in that mindset. But like you said, they've got that much money and they have that much power, and they just don't give a shit.
And it's monopolization, though. And I think that's the problem. We're not looking at it that way.
You remember when I say about narcissism with the serial killers and things like that?
Yeah, that's why we're on it.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at the Silicon Valley guys, I don't think they're necessarily evil, but I think they're on spectrum. They just don't see it like an average person would. But I think that's the also reason why they're so successful, because they don't think like a regular person. Well, that's why they create these Amazon or Facebook or whatnot, and
It's why you have an agent, because you don't want to put the emotion into business. It's very painful.
yeah.
And if you're an artist, you tend to do that. And I've been disappointed by that a lot. And it's like we were talking about Bernie Madoff. I remember there's a scene at the movie De Niro, and Michelle Pfeiffer did about him, but it was based on the actual conversation with the lawyer. And she's like, you are a like grade A sociopath. And he's like, well, no, that's like John Wayne Gacy and Jeffrey Dahmer. And she's like, and you. He doesn't understand. And it's like, you took everything from people. It wasn't like you took a few dollars. Like, you ruined Kevin Bacon's financial portfolio. Like, you took everything from people and ruined their lives. You killed them.
No, the guy was a psychopath.
Yeah, and he didn't understand it, though. He didn't understand how he just played it off like he was a guy who figured out a scheme. And I do think he had some level of comprehension, because he did talk about how he lived every day in fear and guilt that he was just going to get caught.
Yeah.
So he never really enjoyed the things that he had, which people cannot believe, but I think if you say that, there's got to be an element of truth to that.
Right.
So I think he knew that whether he was hurting his family, because the whole way the thing worked out karmically, his son dies of a brain tumor, his other son shoots himself, he ends up in prison. It all went very poorly for the Madoff.
You know what he said? 1 year after he got caught, on the day he got caught, 1 year anniversary, his son killed himself. And Bernie Madoff said, I always knew he was weak. That's why he was talking about his son.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
And his inability to complete disregard for others, That's why when you're trying to shame these people, you're just wasting your time, because they don't see it that way, And I think he got off on it. I really do think Bernie Madoff got orgasm when he, my theory is when super rich people don't have a healthy sex life, they fuck the poor. I do believe that, and they get off on that.
Oh, I think you're right, and I think he proved it. And I think the fact that he was able to become so successful that people lesser than him were stars in our society.
Yeah.
And I mean, people would, even at the end when he knew he was getting caught, people going up to him going, I'll give you $1 million. He's like, I can't do it, because he just knows. I can't do it. I can't do it. He didn't want more trouble. $4 million. And it's like, all right. And it's like, you're going down, but you're still going to just at the last second screw this guy. Yeah. You're not taking the $4 million to get out of trouble. That's a power. That is an absolute sociopathic power move.
Every time when people want to open an account, he said, no, I don't want it. The more he said no, the more they want it.
Of course.
And he gets them that way. Just like when Ed Kemper used to drive around Santa Cruz, he's like 6'7", really big guy. He'll see a girl trying to hitchhike, and she's scared. She doesn't want to get on the truck. But Ed Kemper always say, oh, what time is it? Man, I got 15 minutes. Okay, I'll drive. And then when he does that, he'll manipulate the girl, think, oh, he must be normal. And these psychopath guys always trick people.
Yeah.
Because most decent people don't think like that. It's not within their imagination that how could you hurt people like that? But they have no feelings whatsoever.
And what they're looking for is for you to be decent.
Yeah.
So they know what a decent person would do. They put themselves in your shoes and then they react.
Yeah.
That's really what that is like, this is something you would do. Now you relate to it. You see me as not a threat.
Dennis Rader, the BTK, I remember he would say like, hey, I just need to your car. I just need to tie you up and I'll get out of here. Soon as they allow him to tie him up, he murders them. And there's a point when the victim realizes they're going to die. That's when he gets off. That fear and realization that they're going to die, that's where he gets off. And you don't have to have a vaginal rape or anal rape or whatever to have a sexual gratification. These guys, there are people like that out there.
Oh, no,
they're the CEOs.
Yeah, destroying people.
Yeah.
And it's not, and I realize across the board, it's not everybody. I've known very wealthy people who have done well for themselves, or they're generous, and they don't look at it like that, and it's nice to see, because I think there has to be a humility where you come from somewhere and you don't forget it.
Yeah.
But when you come from somewhere and your whole idea is I'm going to get whatever I want at all costs, any means necessary, but you don't have the ingenuity to make the product, but you do have the ingenuity to make the sale.
Yes.
And that's something that I think sociopaths are very capable of.
Yeah.
And I have this theory that maybe because there's private jets and things like that, but back in the day in like 50s and 60s, even if you go to a baseball game, sometimes you see the richest person in that town sitting next to you and watching baseball. You have like a connection with those people, right? But these people are so rich, and they're flying around all the time. They literally don't have a home. They'll spend 3 months in London, 3 months in Tokyo, 3 months in New York. So they're not really part of the community. So they don't give a fuck about what happened in those neighborhoods. Back in those good old days, I think some rich people feel like they had an obligation to the poor. It's not always my rights. They had a pretty good sense of rights and responsibility. But these days, everyone just talk about their rights, but the responsibility part, fuck that,
It's so spot on. I mean, and I grew up in an area where it was on the border of a very rough city, but it was wealthy.
Yeah.
And a lot of the wealth that I knew, if you were talking about old money, old inherited money, though, that people were kind of embarrassed about or didn't want it wanted it not to be a secret, but you knew they had a big house.
Yeah.
But they're also driving a car that's 20 years old.
Yeah.
They're just wearing Hawaiian shirts to a bar. They're just kind of living, like they weren't flashy.
Yeah.
And now I think there's that element where there's so much flash. Like that's part of the idea of making money. And that's what they tell you to buy is these cars, these yachts, and honestly, some of the most wealthy people I've ever known had none of those assets that I knew about. But I could be like, that old Cutlass belongs to a guy who's worth $200 million or whatever it might be.
Are you a fan of Tom Wolfe?
Yes, of course.
Rest up. Great guy, great writer. Rest in peace.
Unfire the Vanities.
I think he came up with the term Masters of Universe, right, in the 80s. So when he was talking about guys who were in complete control of corporations. But these days we do have masters in the universe, right? They control the corporations, the government, religious institution, academic, Hollywood. They control everything. But here's the thing, Dave. There's one thing that they don't control. They can't control themselves. So whenever there is these really weird sex crimes, this is the only time they reveal themselves, you know. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm interested in fantasy relating to sex crimes and things like that, because I think these people are weirdly, they do the weird shit like Diddy because they're trying to fix themselves, I think.
Yeah.
And they're creating all kinds of pain in the world, you know. And I hope we are able to talk about this. That's why I love comedians when they do dirty act, you know. People laugh, they get embarrassed or whatever. Like, this is great. Let's create an environment. It's okay for people to talk about this, because you know what's worse than talking about it? Not talking about it.
Yeah, and there's a way of doing it where I think it's too much, and there's a way of doing it where I think it's the right amount of, because there is such a weird component to violence versus, I don't know, even sexual normalcy.
Yeah.
You know, you have this, you have a feeling of a lot of guilt in this country,
Yeah.
and that never goes away. And I think that's I don't know. I think that is a large problem in our culture, and the fact that things stay hidden, things build up, and you can create monsters.
And when I look at, like, not making excuses, but Hitler and Stalin, they're both child abuse. Interesting, Chairman Mao, who killed probably more than those two combined, most likely. Chairman Mao, I think he grew up in a relatively healthy background, if I remember right.
I believe great wealth, I thought.
I think he was a natural born psychopath. And I remember reading something about him in multiple books. Like, every time I read between the lines, like, my God, he wasn't, first time he had a bunch of people killed in the village, the way I read it, he just got off on it. He had an orgasm.
Yeah.
There are people like that, like, they want to see people get murdered. They want to see people getting raped.
Well, and to have, I can't fathom the power, because I think you have that in you to go, I want to help someone.
Yeah.
I really do. And like, you can't necessarily help everybody, because even when you can't. It's impossible, but when you can at least do that to those around you, when you're able to create such power that you are in control of everybody around you, and I mean literally everybody around you, and the thing that you want to do is kill them. I don't know why so many leaders get to that point, but it all comes from that same manipulation that is used in serial killers, that is also used to become these billionaires in an industry where you're willing to wipe out other people's lives to make sure.
Well, Dave, I think power is very addicting. You know,
It's like a George Soros.
Of course.
You know, look no further than him. All the deep state power that he wields.
Yeah,
him alone, and he's not alone.
And they're not serial killers, but boy, they're control freaks.
Yeah,
it's every one of those things come down to control.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what you can do.
What's that?
If you want to control a Father's Day gift, go ahead.
Smooth.
Which I know, right?
Smooth.
You can control what you get your daddy.
Yes, you can.
I want to take a moment to talk to all the wives, sons, and daughters out there. Father's Day is almost here. Did you know that? I do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're still scrambling for a gift, don't worry. I've got one for you. Forget the last-minute grill gadget, unless, of course, it's the IQ one. Yeah. And the mug or whatever, the necktie that, we oil. What your husband really wants is something that speaks to who he is. And right now, you can grab our Father's Day special at $30 off your annual subscription to The Blaze using code DAD30. That's DAD, the number 3, the number 0. DAD30 this week only. So skip the predictable gifts. This Father's Day, give him something that actually matters. Go to blazetv.com/normalworld. That is blazetv.com normal / I'm just saying things. blazetv.com/normalworld and use code DAD30 to grab the deal and remind him he's not alone.
That's the best deal they've offered.
Yeah.
We got to get skadootin'.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to say, where can we find you, Yoshi? What do you have coming up, my friend?
They could follow my Instagram, Yoshi Obayashi. But I'm starting a new podcast called Adult Content with Yoshi. It should be out late September or October. I think first 10 or 15, I'll probably interview most of the porn stars I know. I interview Phoenix Marie and hopefully
So I'll be
Angela
on
White.
like third or fourth.
And and I'm doing Edinburgh Fringe Fest this August
Good
again.
for you.
Name of the show is Adult Content. So this is the second time I'm doing it. I'm opening for Russell Peters' Zannies in Nashville, June 19th to 21st. Raleigh Improv, July 10th through 12th. And two more things, sorry. My friend Eva Orner made a documentary called Surviving Ohio State on HBO. This is great. I think I love sports. And sadly, there was a doctor that was abusing athlete. And last one is my friend Kelly G runs a nonprofit called Survivors for Change. He was sexually assaulted as a hockey player when he was a kid. Now he's educating public about there should be good coaching for baseball, football, basketball, and hockey.
Yeah.
But protect kids by making sure you do a background search on some of these coaches and things like that. And if you're interested, you guys could donate money to survivorsforchange.org. And I want to protect
great cause.
kids. I think Surviving Ohio State tells you like these kids in college, they know how to get help. They're getting assaulted. And so if they're having a hard time, imagine if you're a young kid, So please help the organization protect kids.
Yeah, you really have this idea when you're growing up about how old college kids are and how it just changes into adulthood. And now that I just saw like a college graduation the other day, and I'm like, these are children.
Oh yeah.
And it's difficult. So yeah, that's a very, very important cause. What's it called again?
It's the name of the organization is called Survivors for Change.
Survivors for Change.
It's in Chicago, and my friend Kelly G's been D.C. talking to Congress, Senate, and I think they have a deal with the University of Kentucky, but they're trying to educate public about providing healthy environment for kids if something like this happen, or better yet, prevent that from happening first. Make sure you do background check on the coaches for Little League and baseball, football, basketball, or soccer, whatever, to protect these kids. And so it's survivorsforchange.org.
I'll put a link in the description too, so they can just click the link.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I love sports, but like it just to think like these college students didn't know what to do and they didn't know how to verbalize these things, And we create environments you're not supposed to talk sex. Well, if you can't talk about sex, if you're getting abused, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
I was very, very lucky that my dad. I mean, it sounds bad for him, but his dad left the day he was born. He just looked at him and his sister and were like, he had twins, and he never came back. And because of it, he was a really good person with this massive empathy for kids. And
oh wow,
he was our baseball coach. He put together Babe Ruth Little League in the Detroit area. He brought in people from the city.
Yeah,
it was really. I was very, very lucky to have that. When I see a lot of people have to deal with what they have to deal with, and we had a very good community. And I mean, when you talk, I remember one time we were reading the Pamela Anderson Playboy. And it was in the back, and we're all in like we're probably like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
We got a hold of it, and my dad pops the trunk, and it's just the centerfold of Pamela Anderson, and he just goes, "She's pretty," and just walks away. Like, he didn't shame us. He didn't. He completely thought it was fine. And then later we discussed, but it was. He understood this line of like how to treat a kid to be a man and not a piece of crap. And my parents were very, very big on being chivalrous and respectful. And I think that's important to instill in a kid through sports.
By the way, another problem with these young kids these days, they watch everything pornography online. Remember good old days when we have to go into woods looking for pornography?
Yeah.
We got some physical exercise looking for porn. And when we say streaming porn back when we were kids, we literally saw centerfold pictures going down the river, right? That is the close. But so
you're saying take kids' cell phones and put them in the woods and make them go run out there to get them.
Or you're looking at
get out of the house, spend time with your friend, look for porn.
Or you're looking at
vitamin D.
Yeah.
Don't be some fat loser.
Right.
Going to the woods. I mean,
I don't know. If
I met people from Arab, Latin America, in the North Pole. I mean, I've heard stories from everywhere. They found
Pole.
they found
Santa's
magazines in desert. You know what I mean? Like
they did, yeah.
At least we work hard for that shit. These fucking lazy piece of shit.
Owners.
Oh, I remember our friends would be.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, we would pay.
We work for our.
I'm just still laughing at the North Pole reference.
We would pay homeless people to go into a liquor store and buy us porn.
Yes,
And
see,
then
we
they
were
would
creative back
yeah,
then.
They'd hand it to you, and you'd be like, "Oh my god!" Like it would just be what they liked.
Oh man.
Some things are worth working really hard to find in them. Making stuff like that so easy, it's not good for people. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's not good for people because the dopamine effect that it has in the country. The thing is, porn itself is one thing. Porn being given you 24 hours through a feed in a dopamine rush, I believe, is a massive contribution to the violence going on right now and to the addiction. And when you lose that addiction, I think it's terrible. And it's like, that's not against an industry where people do it. And I know plenty of people that watch the show are, but there's a difference. There's a difference between feeding that constant dopamine pellet thing that I think it will destroy a culture.
I'm such a loser. When I was in high school, we got a TV, put an antenna in one of those Playboy channel where we had a subscription.
Yeah.
So, I'm just kind of changing, and you see the buzz. Every once in a while you see a tit.
Yeah.
I work really hard, jacking off or whatever, but these kids.
I haven't seen.
I know, right?
I haven't seen a passionate speech like this since Lou Gehrig.
He's right. He's like, look, in my day, you had to look at the scrambly porn. He's right, though.
I know he's right.
You had to earn it. You just get it on your phone now? You don't work for nothing.
You're like, hey, click, doom.
I want to be an influencer.
This is how dumb when I saw the first Western porn, and you remember they used to put stars and nipples and vagina and things like that?
Nasties. Still wear them.
I literally thought that was real for white people. Like you literally have stars covering you all the time.
I do.
On your nips?
I do.
Well, yours is a deformity. We're going to get on to it, but you can check Derek and I out this weekend.
Yes.
In South Carolina at Greenville. And you can check out, are you doing a watch along this weekend, Angela?
Yes.
All right. What are you doing?
Well, I always put up the poll as you like.
Yes,
yeah.
we make the jokes.
Jokes. Thursday nights.
You make the jokes. Don't sigh at me.
No, I'm not. I'm just, my brain is like scrambled.
What did you do last week? I saw it.
It was The Exorcist, but it got blocked. But I fixed it and it's back up. So you can
Nice.
check
Good
it out.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies ever with the reactions that they did at the theater. Did you ever see the old 70s reactions for it?
What, for The Exorcist?
Yeah, where they go and they're interviewing people, the news teams.
I'm sure it was
No.
quite shocking. For
Oh,
me.
they're screaming and throwing up.
Yeah.
And, like they can't believe what they're saying. It's really an amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was
Last thing, I want to thank
Yeah.
Angela. She was so professional helping me today and last couple of weeks. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love
so
you.
it's great to be back.
What did you say, Kayla? Oh, clap.
Oh.
No. The other woman. You're fine.
They don't get no clapping. Well, the
Just
end of
from
the
you.
world. She has done a better job since the show's been at risk. So, I love you, Derek.
I love you too.
No, you do an excellent job.
Thank you.
Be proud.
I am.
Not of your car. License plate's a bit much.
I love that thing.
Yeah, I just honk behind her all day. What is the worst pickup line you've ever heard?
You look like the kind of girl who gets a UTI 3 times a year.
That's sexy.
Yeah.
Did you do that at the Piggly Wiggly or wherever you said you were? hanging
Maybe
out
I did.
yesterday? Angela, what you got?
Maybe you'd like to go out for dinner, drinks, and dance on the grave of my younger brother who died from SIDS when I was 7. Real one. For real.
That's a solid one.
I heard that.
Oh, no, I believe you.
That's tight.
Were you also at the Hog and Whistle?
The hog's breath.
Thank you. That's the name of it from yesterday. Okay, the Hog's Breath. All right, what do you got for me?
Do you like to smell chloroform? Of course, the Asian guy's saying it because
You look gorgeous, but you'd look even better in my trunk.
Is it always your birthday? Because you look like you eat a lot of cake.
That's the winner. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Check out Angela's show this weekend. We will be in South Carolina. And, of course, you can check out Yoshi and the link in the description where you can donate to help a great cause. We appreciate you listening. Thank you very much for coming on, Yoshi, and everybody. Have a fine weekend. We will see you Tuesday.